But first, the most unfortunate Week 1 story that I can remember ever doing on Carving It Up Live. Aaron Rodgers is done for the season after only 4 snaps, as we all know, with an Achilles tear. Now, before I even get into anything, so he's pressured on this play by Leonard Floyd, who comes off the edge. I know a lot of people are blaming the MetLife Stadium turf, which has been a big topic of discussion, a big area of concern for a lot of players for a long time. That it's perfectly legitimate. I get it. I don't think the turf was the reason he injured his Achilles. If you watch that play and the way his heel bends, a heel's not supposed to bend that way. So if you're trying to dig your foot in the ground and then all of a sudden a big 260, 70-pound defensive lineman, maybe more, I don't know what Leonard Floyd weighs, comes down on you the way that the Achilles was bent, that's not going to bode very well. It reminds me to a certain extent, not to bring any Warriors topics into this, but it reminds me when Steph Curry was driving to the basket, got somebody, I forget who it was, came in weak side help and tripped him, so he's airborne, and his finger is going to hit the floor before the palm of his hand does, and then here comes big old, remember Aaron Baines, former center in the NBA? He comes down and just crushes Steph Curry's middle of his hand and his finger, and he ended up missing like 4 months. It was similar to that, obviously an Achilles, far more serious than an ankle, than an Achilles injury. Achilles injury is far more serious than a hand injury, rather. First of all, Aaron Rodgers actually just posted on Instagram literally 10, 15 minutes ago. If we could put up the post now. I don't have the graphic for the show. I apologize. But Aaron Rodgers just put this on Instagram. Let's see, when was this posted? 23 minutes ago. So it's got a picture of him. Remember, he came out. It was obviously 22nd anniversary of 9/11. It's in New York. Very emotional moment. Aaron's going through the tunnel with the American flag, which in what I would imagine was an electric atmosphere in the Meadowlands. But Aaron's got a couple pictures there of his Jets debut. And the caption says, quote, "Thank you to every person who has reached out, called, texted, DM'd, connected through a friend, etc. It has been a ton to me, and I'll try to get back to all of you soon. I'm completely heartbroken and moved through all of the emotions, but deeply touched and humbled by the support and love. Please keep me in your thoughts and prayers as I begin the healing process today." And this is very interesting by Aaron. Even in Aaron's lowest point, he always gives us a nice little message, a cryptic message to a certain extent. He says, quote, "The night is darkest before the dawn, and I shall rise yet again. Proud of my guys, 1-0, jet emoji." So that right there, and I was going to center a lot of my segment regarding Aaron Rodgers, at least. I'll get into the Jets later and their outlook on the rest of the season, particularly regarding Zach Wilson. But that kind of answers my question to a certain extent that I had about Aaron Rodgers. In that, okay, we understand his resume. He's a Super Bowl champion, 4-time MVP. Certainly, I have been critical of him in the past in terms of him not being quite as committed as a Tom Brady, maybe as a Drew Brees. You have the ayahuasca situation, the darkness retreats. The last few years, up until this offseason, which I'll get into in just a moment, he was totally kind of out participating in any OTAs, minicamp with and working with some younger receivers, trying to build that rapport. And oftentimes, early in seasons, there'll be like a real, especially last season in Green Bay, there was a real disconnect between Aaron and some of those younger receivers, particularly Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. That became a problem for the Packers that kind of persisted throughout the season. So to see Aaron Rodgers, and I'm sure y'all have noticed, and I've been quite emphatic about this, how much I've changed my tune on the guy, that ever since he joined the Jets, it was like this is Aaron Rodgers, and then that was just some, curmudgeon in Green Bay. Because here comes this 39-year-old quarterback with the resume he has. He could retire today and be a first-ballot Hall of Famer, no questions asked. And he comes into New York, and he has the statement, hey, that Lombardi trophy is looking kind of lonely over there. Very reminiscent, again, another Warriors reference, very reminiscent of what Joe Lacob said when he bought the Warriors in, I think it was 2010, 2011, just FYI. But I like that statement from Rodgers. And he comes in, he's got some like color in his face. He's got, he looks, I hate to say this, but more well-groomed, I guess, to a certain extent than he did in the past. He looks good. He looks fresher. He's showing up in his Jets hoodie and playing with the wide receivers during mini camps and building the rapport, bringing some of his Packer teammates with him, guys like Randall Cobb and guys like Adrian Amos joined the team. I don't know if Amos is still with the team, but he brought in Alan Lazard, who made a couple plays the other night. And it felt like it was kind of a new day for Aaron Rodgers. It felt like he was embracing the city of New York. You see him at the Taylor Swift concerts dancing his you-know-what off to shake it off. And you're seeing He's in Broadway. He's going to the Tony Awards. He's going to Madison Square Garden. Aaron is a big city kid. He's from the Bay Area. He likes the big city feel. It's not even a shot at Green Bay. Green Bay just always felt like a weird fit with Aaron because he's California big city guy, and that's obviously not. Green Bay doesn't even have an owner. It's the only team in the NFL that can say that. The town owns them. Obviously not the case with the New York Jets. And so it just, to watch him go down, and I was watching the Peyton and Eli broadcast during the game, and they were as stunned as everybody else, of course, maybe even more so because those are two. Obviously, Peyton was one of the greatest ever. Eli was very, very good in his own right. But just the shock, oh God, you got to be kidding me! Just your stomach just drops when you see him go down and you see him get on the cart. And initially, Peyton's saying, I'm watching the Peyton and Eli broadcast, and Peyton's saying, "Hey, it might be an ankle," and that's what the initial report is. And as it turned out, the Jets put out a release saying Aaron Rodgers is questionable to return with an ankle injury. And then you hear Adam Schefter at halftime saying there's fear it could be an Achilles. And you're like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. And then the images come throughout the night, throughout the second half, and you see two shots that stood out to me. One was the one I kind of mentioned earlier in terms of he's got his toe planted into the ground. And here comes Leonard Floyd, bringing Aaron Rodgers to the ground, and an Achilles, a heel is not meant to bend that far, and that's probably what did it. And then another angle, which reminded me a little bit of Kevin Durant's injury in 2019, his Achilles injury. You could see in slow motion the Achilles roll up and the calf almost like snap to a certain extent. It's a nasty, nasty, nasty video. And when you saw that, it's like, okay, it's obvious an Achilles, and he's probably done. All of that to say this: 39 years old. This was kind of he talked about during training camp, hey, I plan to be here multiple years. I remember doing segments about that during training camp. He plans to be with the Jets for multiple years. Well, catastrophic events like this can maybe change plans, can maybe change things to a certain extent. But Aaron Rodgers said, what was the quote he used? If I could pull this up again, what Aaron Rodgers said, he said, "The night is darkest before the dawn, and I shall rise yet again." That tells me, hey, I'm 39 years old. This is going to be really hard, but I'm putting my heart and soul into this rehab. I'm going to put myself in a position where September, let's see, what's opening Sunday in the NFL next year? It's going to be a leap year, so September 8th-ish. Let's say the Jets open September 8th or maybe September 9th if they open on Monday Night Football. I'm going to be ready to go at 40 years old, going to age 41 in 2024, hoping to help the Jets win a Super Bowl. So, man, praying for Aaron Rodgers, of course. It sucks. It sounds like, though, what he's saying, this isn't going to be the end. And thank God it isn't. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised because I honestly thought retirement. If Aaron was 90-10 on retirement before the darkness retreat, you're telling me he wasn't at least 50-50 after the Achilles? But the fact that he goes online, says what he says, listen, he's got a big-time competitive drive. Listen, any athlete who gets to where Aaron Rodgers has gotten, you don't get to that point if you don't have just a fire that burns in you. And obviously Aaron has that. There's no question about it. And again, this rehab for somebody his age is going to be rough. It's going to be hard. It's going to be brutal. But I'm pulling for him. I think all of us are. And certainly hope that's not the last time we see, it's weird to say, number 8 on the field for the New York Jets. And hopefully he's back behind center in 2024 with an improved offensive line, by the way. Because for the record, all 3 of his dropbacks for the Jets, I think it was 3, he was pressure on every single time. And Zach Wilson dealt with pressure for the rest of the game when he came in relief of the injured Rodgers. So we've known that's been a problem and a concern for the Buffalo Bills. So whether or not they're able to fix that this offseason, I think is going to be the difference between them potentially contending or not contending. So very, very interested to see that. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.